Welcome to Xogot's modular series on 3D game development. This video will introduce the world environment node and how to use it. Now, when you're first looking at a 3D scene, you might think there's already a world environment, but this is actually just a preview. So if I try to play the game, that's not going to show up at all. I have to add the world environment manually. So plus in the scene tree, other, world environment, and then add. So from here, there's a lot of setup. The world environment is completely empty. So next to environment, I'm going to pick the resource, make a new environment, tap on the environment to enter the environment settings, and then I'm going to go into the background settings. Right now, it's just showing a clear color in the background. And so if I go into my project settings, the clear color can be set over in rendering under environment. And so whatever color you have set here is going to be your clear color. And so that is project wide. But perhaps you want a solid color that's just local to the scene and not the whole project. In that case, you're going to custom color. Now I can choose the color that I want for the custom color. And in the same area, there's several different types of backgrounds. For now, I'm going to move on to canvas. So for the canvas, this is going to be showing my canvas layer. And then if I preview the game, we can see that the image from the canvas is going to be replacing my camera view. It's overriding all the models. And I have this new maximum layer setting for the canvas. And if I set that to 1, it actually sets the canvas just as the background instead of being in front of everything. Then I can actually see the models for my platforms. I probably need to go back in and add a directional light so that I can actually see what's going on here. But now I have that canvas showing and my models at the same time. So it lets me sort of combine 2D and 3D together. So I'm going to actually just completely delete this world environment. I'm going to turn off the visibility of my canvas layer, and I'm also going to get out of my game preview here. Now, when I want to have a sky, I'm better off creating the sky here from the 3D view. So I can come into the settings, environment. I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom. Well, actually, before I do that, if I want to change my sky color or my ground color, I can do that. Maybe this is going to be water. And then at the very bottom of these settings, I can add that environment to the scene. So that created the world environment node, but it also set it up for me, which saves a lot of time. So the environment's already been created, the background's been set as sky, but the sky itself has been created as well. And then a procedural sky has been created. So I can go in and adjust those settings. So under sky, I can choose the top color for my sky. If I want to change the horizon color for the sky, I can do that as well. There is this little curve that I can adjust for the gradient here. I can go back and do the same thing for the ground, so the bottom color. The horizon color, maybe it's going to have a little bit of a tint here. Again, I can grab onto the curve and make some adjustments to that. So I can really change how this is going to look. For the procedural sky, I can have sort of this faux sun here where I choose the angle of the sun. I can have the curve over here. So that's going to sort of control the sun disk and what the sun is looking like. But if I have a directional light 3D, or up to 4 directional light 3Ds, in fact, it'll average those positions and use that for the sun information if you happen to have that. So I can make adjustments to the sun. For the sky, there are actually several different skies. So if I go to the little menu icon over here, I can switch the type from procedural to just a new shader, to a physical sky, or to a panorama. I'm going to do a panorama first. I need to go into the panorama, choose my resource, and a panorama has to be either an HDR image or an EXR image. So I'm just going to select this EXR image, and it just wraps around the entire background. Now, this image should not have been used for a panorama because it has a really obvious seam here. So definitely prepare your images ahead of time or choose one that's already going to have a good seam for a panorama. So I'm going to go back out of those settings here. I'm going to go back to the little menu, and this time I'm going to add a physical sky. So the physical sky is based more on how our sky actually works and sort of the sky particles. So if I go into the settings here, turbidity is going to be for the atmosphere. I have some sun disk adjustments that I can do. I can also control the sun disk with a single directional light 3D. I can change the ground color. Again, maybe it's going to be sort of a watery scene. Oh, and then that was just the energy over here. Lower down, I have some various particle settings. And so this is for like really small air particles, and it controls how blue the sky ends up looking. So I can play around with the coefficient depending on how I want that to look. The other particle area here is for more of the larger dust water particles, and they impact the sense of haziness, and they can also be helpful for giving a sense of more of a sunrise or sunset. So lots of things we can make adjustments to depending on how we want this all to look. So that is the physical sky. So all sorts of different skies that we can have as the background. And so that was clear color, custom color, sky, and canvas. Next up, I'm going to show keep, and I actually have a separate scene set up for that. And I have just a really simple empty room that's set up with some lighting here. And you can see I've already set the background mode to keep. And so this is just going to show you your scene without the background. It's not going to render the background, so it's actually going to be the fastest. You can only do this if you are not going to see the background at all because you don't have any windows. It's entirely enclosed. The reason for that is when you go back out of your enclosed object, it's super artifacty. So this is only something that you would do if you have an interior space where you don't see the outside at all. So I'm back in the other scene, and I just want to mention that there is one last mode for the background. We can actually have this set to a camera feed. I'm not going to show it right now, but it can be really helpful for AR or XR applications. So back out of the background settings, just in the environment settings themselves, there are actually a lot of additional settings that you can experiment with. We can play around with the ambient lighting. And so maybe the ambient lighting has a bit of a color cast. Maybe we want the sky to contribute a little bit less or a little bit more. Maybe the energy for the ambient lighting is going to be stronger or weaker. So lots of settings. Have fun experimenting, and we'll be back with more videos.